This is Down the Rabbit Hole, where we question the mysteries and nature of reality. I'm your host, Justin Perry.
My toddler from a different dimension.
So today I was in my kitchen. I live in a small loft and the smallest bedroom is like 3 feet from the edge of the island counter in my kitchen. I saw my 2-year-old walk from down the hallway where I'd last seen her and into my daughter's room. I literally watched her for several seconds as she walked in my line of sight, into the room and out of my line of sight. Something seemed off, but I was distracted with my task, so I just immediately told my 13-year-old, "Hey, toddler in your room," so she could check it out. 13 was in the living room, which is joined to the kitchen area, so it didn't take but 20 seconds for her to get into her bedroom. She was like, "The baby isn't in here." So we checked together and my toddler, was still in her little bed that's in my room at the end of the hall, just vibing. Then it hit me. What was wrong? My toddler was wearing a pink footless zip-up sleeper today. When I saw her, she was wearing a teal blue sleeper with popsicle print that she wears often. Being distracted, it didn't really click. Also, weirdly enough, she's a heavy walker, and when I saw her a minute before, she made no sound, which is probably why I noticed something off. She also seemed like her being was slightly muted color-wise, and it seemed like a soft image, almost normal, but slightly faded like a camera filter. Enough for me to notice something was weird, but not instantly notice what whilst I was distracted. This was broad daylight, by the way. I wasn't seeing things wrong. I even saw her smile a little. I saw her clearly, but it wasn't her. I've got no idea what to do with this. I have no history of hallucinations, etc. I'm not having a mental break, nor am I sleep deprived. Everything else is mostly normal. However, this event did remind me that 3 or so weeks ago when my 13-year-old was home alone, that she heard my toddler giggle in my living room even though we weren't home. Not many kids live in my building, but a few do. So I brushed it off as her mistaking someone in the hall for my kid. Now I'm not so sure, and this is honestly freaking me out.
Did she use telekinesis?
So this happened when I was about 17. I'm 32 now, but it still freaks me out when I think about it, and I cannot come up with a good answer. I was on a conference trip with a lot of other teenagers from my state. The last night of the conference, there was a huge formal-style banquet. A few of the people I came up to the event with were sitting at my table. A girl sat to my right that I knew just from the trip, and to her right. A guy sat down that I had seen around the events but didn't know personally. The table was round and seated about 8 of us. There was a large centerpiece of flowers. We all wore these huge name tags during the week which pinned to our shirts. They were a little smaller than a note card and were inside of plastic covers. When we would eat, we'd throw our name tags to the center of the table in front of us for some reason. Anyway, when it was time to go, we started grabbing our tags. This is where things got weird. The girl to my right had her right hand just in from the edge of her section of the table. With her wrist staying near the table's edge, she raised her hat at something like a 45-degree angle. I swear on everything holy that when she did that, her name tag moved from near the center of the table in one quick motion directly into her hand. I was like, what the F? I was stunned. I looked at her and she just looked at me like I was going to say something. I looked at the guy to her right and he said, "Did you just see that?" The name tag moved into her hand. I was stunned and said that I did. He looked around at the other people at our table and asked if they saw it. I asked others as well. People thought that we were joking. She chuckled and walked away. He and I stood there, shocked at what we were certain we had just witnessed. I had to ride back with her on the bus, but I never mentioned it again. Now I wish that I would have asked her about it in private, but I was a little scared of her. To this day, I don't know what happened, but I know what I saw.
Who was she talking to?
Every once in a while, I have dreams about places or people I've never seen. Then, about 6, 7 months later, I'm in the place or with the people and have deja vu. I also sing random songs even when something else is playing on the radio. Then the next song that plays is what I was singing. I've done this. On mine, my best friends, and my girlfriend's earpods on shuffle many times, and it freaks them the fuck out every time. One super weird thing, though, happened in about 2012-ish. I was 19 and living at home with my parents and younger sister. I came home from work from my job at a BBQ place and my sister says to me, "Oh, I thought you said you were off today." I'm confused because I left at 5 a.m. before anyone was awake and I ask her, "When did I say that?" She says to me, like 2 hours ago in your room. She thinks I'm screwing with her, so I tell her to smell me because you can smell the sauce and smoke on me. Then she gets really creeped out and tells me she had went into my room earlier and seen me in bed with covers up to my neck and had a 15-minute conversation with me. Hearing that really creeped me out, and I never felt comfortable in that room ever again.
The ice cream glitch.
This is a short story, but I swear it's true. This happened when I was like 13 years old. I accidentally spilled some chocolate ice cream on my leg. I wiped it off, and there was a pale brown stain in the shape of the ice cream splotch ingrained in my leg. I told my mother, who said it was a birthmark. I will swear under oath that never before that moment did I have a birthmark there, and I honestly still can't explain it.
I may have shifted realities.
I was on a road trip with family once. We stayed at a hotel for a night. Our room was nothing more than 2 beds and a restroom with a big-ass mirror on across from the beds. Everyone went to sleep but me. I stayed up playing a video game I was addicted to at the time. At about 2 in the morning, I went to sleep. When I woke up, I noticed something was just ever so slightly off. The mirror was gone. The room had 2 separate bedrooms, but now there was 3 beds. Apparently, I was the only one who noticed it because my family called me crazy. I'm honestly still confused to this day as to what actually happened, but I think I may have shifted realities.
The photo glitch.
I went to camp when I was around 12 years old. I took one of those disposable film cameras with me. Cell phones were still in flip phone phase, and I didn't have one. I took a picture of 2 people I made friends with there. Here's where it gets weird. One of the friends appears in the photo, twice in 2 different poses entirely. It's as if I took a photograph in 2 different realities.
The daytime stood still.
This happened when I was a teenager, and I never forgot it. I was in my room and decided to go to the kitchen to make a sandwich. I looked at the clock before I left, and it was 6:48 at night. I went to the kitchen, made an awesome sandwich, got some chips, and a drink. This probably took me at least 10 minutes minimum. When I walked back into my room, the clock still said 6:48 p.m. I stood there for a bit, really confused and slightly freaked out. I swear on my life that time stood still that day.
The car that glitches.
Had a friend who was convinced something was wrong with the area between the nearby town and his home. Or maybe it was his car. He claimed that many times he'd leave work and somehow be home 5 minutes later when it was a 15-20 minute drive. It was crazy. He wasn't the only one that this happened to either. It happened to a few friends that rode with him, and they all verified it. Definitely weird stuff.
But we never had a conversation.
I was sitting in my office one day when my desk phone rings, and it is my undersheriff asking me to bring him all the report's dispatch logs. So I get it all together and start towards his office. I meet him in the hallway and hand him the paperwork. He asked what it was. I told him it's the documentation you asked for. He then swears he never asked me for it, that he had just arrived and had not called my office. He was on his way down the hall to ask me to get it together. I honestly still can't explain this incident.
I started to know things.
To this day, I cannot explain what happened. I was watching TV with friends and we landed on some old 80s movie I used to watch over and over, but hadn't seen in a long time. I had the dialogue memorized and it all instantly came back and I knew what was going to be said next. Here's the freaky part. We changed channels and kept trying to find something to watch. I noticed that everything we watched was the same. I knew every line of dialogue as if I was remembering it from having memorized it. These were all things I had never watched before. Here's the real freaky part. It started happening even when my friends were talking. An instant before they said anything, I knew word for word what they were saying. The effect only lasted an hour or so, but it was bizarre.
He said he never came in my room.
When I was about 9, I was eating dinner in my room for some reason. I was sat at my dresser that had a big mirror, and my dad came in to check on me. He asked me if I wanted some more tea, to which I said yes and handed him my cup. I watched him walk out and close the door, looked over to see my cup full of tea right from where I picked it up. I asked my dad about it. He said he never came in my room.
The Duel Dream glitch.
This didn't happen to me, but to my dad. He works for a heating and air conditioning company, so he often has to go out to people's houses to fix things. About 5 years ago, he told me he had a bizarre dream where he went on a call to an elderly woman's house. He'd never seen the house or this woman before, but he said it was bizarre because of how realistic the whole thing felt. He fixed her boiler in the dream, chatted for a bit, and then left. About a week later, his company gets a call from an elderly woman needing her boiler fixed. They send my dad on the job. When he arrived, he said it was the exact same house from his dream and the same old lady. He knew her name before he even had to ask and knew his way around the house without having gone inside yet. When she opened the door, she said, "Hi, Gary." And when he asked how she already knew his name, she said she had a dream last week that her boiler broke and that my dad is the one who came to fix it. So she just knew that would be his name. Two complete strangers, never having met each other, had the exact same dream that they would meet each other, and they did. The whole thing is so crazy.
The loading matrix station.
This just happened quite recently. I was heading towards a place from a train station that was being remodeled, and there's a huge chunk that's under construction. I got a bit lost in the area and my Google Maps was telling me that I should go through one path, but I couldn't since the whole area was basically off limits and I should take a detour. This was some busy underpass with people going to the platforms, and there was one big temporary plywood wall with big signs of under construction. Unauthorized access forbidden. No entry. This part got weird. That plywood wall had a plywood doctor, and people were entering, exiting it like a normal busy door. Completely normal looking people that looked like they don't belong in a construction area. Even some old woman entered it. So then I thought that the map is working fine, so I decided to go through the door, and it got even weirder. On the other side was just a huge empty area, completely under construction. An area of sand, piles of gravel, some pillars, and construction in the distance. The edge of the underpass was completely unfinished. I was really confused since I wasn't far behind the last person who went through the door, and I had no idea where the guy went. There was no path. It didn't seem to look like there was some path where the people would gone. There's a big gravel road in front of me going a bit to the side, and the map was telling me to follow some similar path, so I thought maybe I should check it out a bit. Except, fuck no. A big Caterpillar tractor sped up along that road, and I wasn't planning to walk near that. I saw the guy in the tractor looking at me confused, so the next thing I thought was to go back since I shouldn't even be here. I opened the door and a few people walking away to platform looked at me weirdly, like I did when I saw people entering the door. No one entered after I went through, nor when I came out. So after that, I just had to take the detour since I was in a hurry anyway and forgot about it for the rest of the day.
Same location, different realities.
When I was little, 6 years old, my parents took us to Disney World in Florida. We went to go watch one of those shows with parrots. During the middle, I had to go to the bathroom, so my mom took me and left my dad and my sister to watch the show. When we came back, the entire stadium was empty, so we thought the show ended and we went back to the bathroom area to wait for my dad, thinking that's where he must have taken my sister since it's the only bathroom station in the area. We sat on the bench and waited for 2 hours before my mom gave up. This was pre-cell phone. The only remarkable thing during this time was that one of those iguana lizard things was fighting a squirrel behind the bench, and I watched that with great joy. I actually remember this. We did some other stuff, then went back to the hotel room to wait for them. The entire time my mom was annoyed at my dad, saying, "It's so irresponsible of him." A few hours after we got back to the hotel room, my dad and sister, who is a year younger than me, came back, and obviously they started arguing, both saying they were waiting for the other at the bathroom. Me and my sister on the hand started telling each other about the lizard and squirrel we saw fighting. Apparently, both of us saw what happened from the same vantage point on that bench. My parents stopped to listen to us and asked us to clarify. We both saw the same lizard, same squirrel, fighting from the same point on the bench. It was one of those inexplicable occurrences, but they didn't give it further thought until me and my sister brought up the remember that time we saw the lizard and squirrel fight. And my mom was like, "Yeah, that was a weird day."